didn't see the value of me. And the moment I changed how I viewed myself, I got higher quality friends. You put out, you get what you put out in this universe.
I feel you.
You understand? So this
Jobber Nation, welcome to another episode of the Jobbertears podcast. As always, I'm Jill from HR. Here with some workers with Mrblacc. And we got a very special gentleman joining us this week. But before we get into what he got going on, he got a lot of stuff going on. Next weekend, we'll be back at Legends for WrestleMania Backlash. So make sure RSVP for that. And then, as announced today, and shout out to Taylor, that Black Girl Magic will run the day before JobberSlam 2. So it will be back to back of Black Excellence. So August 19th and the 20th. So stay tuned for more information on those shows. But without further ado, let our guest introduce himself. Let the viewers and listeners know who you are.
Oh wow, you got that pressure on me. I'm Kahn, formerly the Women on the World 6-Man champion. As you see in AEW, sometimes Supercard Honor. Yeah, that's all I got going on right now.
Oh man, you do have a lot going on right now. Number one thing is the transition from ROH to AEW/ROH rebrand, ROH 2.0. How are you feeling about this journey that you're on, and also that you're not with your STP brothers?
It's interesting, right? This is a business. So after my time came it was kind of like, what's next in store for me? And after the opportunity for AEW, I was looking at it as like and then you go there and you find a honor, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's different though. Like, I can't complain. I have a contract. I'm excited.
Okay, so you said you're excited about it. What about the fact that you're doing it by yourself? You're not with STP anymore.
There's like a lot of feedback happening.
It's my brother. Like, I had to mute him.
Okay. All right. Like STP's family, those are my brothers. Like I said, this is a business, so I kind of wanted to like venture out on by myself and see what I could accomplish. Since I've been wrestling, I've been in a tag team for basically 5 years. I've been part of the 6-man team for like a year and a half, and opportunity came up, but I kind of wanted to really push myself and like level up and evolve as a performer. I felt like when I first started wrestling, I wanted to do the tag team thing because I'm pretty introverted. So I was like, cool, I can do like this tag team thing. The whole focus isn't on me, and comfortable to a point where I'm gaining a lot of confidence. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That was Khan's time. Like, I need to show these people what I can do by myself. I need to show the world that I'm a world-class performer. And I need to show these people that I'm going to try to be one of the best professional wrestlers ever. Like, that's my goal. That's the mentality. And like, nothing against being in a team by any means, but I felt like I really needed to step up and push myself into that space. So that's where I was heading to.
So what got you into wrestling? Like, what was it that kind of like got you into? Because you've been in the business what 6-7 years, just about
5.5.
Okay, so what 6 years ago? What made you flip the script and said, you know what, I'm going to start my journey as a professional wrestler?
So it really was watching the WWE documentary, the 24 documentary about Seth Rollins. And like prior to that, I did college, I did grad school. I was working a 9 to 5. I just started a new job at an agency doing like med tech branding. And then I just got to a point where I was like commuting an hour each way to work. And I'm like, this isn't it. Like, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled by any means. And I know I used to love and be obsessed with professional wrestling as a kid. So let's see like what it looks like. And I watched that documentary, and that day, goosebumps. And I looked at my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm done working the 9 to 5. I'm gonna become a professional wrestler. I found a school by chance. I moved out to Maryland 6 months later because she got a job out there. Found MCW, and I literally never looked back. Like, that was foot on the gas pedal. I made that decision that day, and then I just went for it.
Wow.
But hold on. Motherfucker's educated. Educated.
Okay.
I'm assuming it was a borderline 6-figure job, or was it a 6-figure job you left?
Very close. But like I was saying, like I literally, you think about being in college, right? You literally go to school from the time you're 5 years old, and I didn't graduate grad school until I was 25. And I'm like, I was doing grad school and working a full-time job at the same time in my field that I was like going to school for, and it wasn't it. Like, it's just not it. Like, my mom was like, hey, before you do this wrestling thing, you're going to college, like, you're getting this degree. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I'll do that. I happened to do the grad school thing for 2.5 years. Like, I'm glad that I did it. Like, I took a very strategic approach to getting into professional wrestling. I made sure I was very financially secure. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go jump off the top rope and try to, like, hurt myself.
Nah, that's the truth. You really are putting yourself in danger on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just tell people to put myself at the ground every weekend, and I'm like, hopefully I don't have back problems.
Nigga, you will.
He probably knows that. So tell us a little bit about your journey once you moved to Maryland. And MCW is really well known down in the kind of the DMV area too. So tell us a little bit about like what, your journey there, and like what's something that you learned then that you still carry with you with your new adventure with AEW and ROH.
Getting to Baltimore was a little bit of a struggle. Like, didn't have a job for like 6 months, but I still had all this money that I saved up where I'm like, all right, I'm doing this professional wrestling thing. I just got to lock down a job first, and then I'm doing this. And it's so crazy to think about like what it is to become a professional wrestler, right? Like, you find this, it was at a flea market. There's 2 rings there. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, this got to be like a state-of-the-art facility, right? Like, this is kind of like how people go warm up areas and stuff. I remember like my second day, I'm like, hey, is there like a treadmill or anything? Because like, we're waiting for these drills, right? I'm getting cold, and the dude was like, oh yeah, there's a bike in the back, that we have weights and all this shit. He's being sarcastic. I'm like, all right, asshole. Like, I didn't know it was the drills, and like if there's 30 people that are in the back of the line, you're watching people do these drills. It's like 20 minutes before you get back in the ring. You're already cold, but then you get used to that's what this shit is, especially when it comes to training. You go in there, you take advantage of your short amount of time in the ring, and then you watch other people do it, get critiqued, and it's a fucking grind. At that time, found another job in Lanham, which is like near DC. So I was driving an hour and a half after work all day to train for 4 hours, drive 45 minutes back to work, back home. And then like my situation changed. My ex at the time, when I got to ROH Dojo, same kind of thing. Monday through Thursday, literally work 9 to 5, train for 4 hours, gym, go home, do that shit every single day. But like one of the best things I've learned and why I moved to Texas is like, you need to get out here on this road and like travel and work these indies. Like, you think about people in the 80s and 90s, they were hitting towns, they were moving all over the country to fulfill this dream. I don't think people really do that anymore, but I wanted to do that. I didn't really have that indie experience outside of Maryland and maybe Virginia. And I'm like, nah, I gotta pack up and go somewhere else. Texas is a hotbed for wrestling. So let's go back out there. Let's be that nomad that you want to be, travel the country, go wrestle at these small fucking promotions that aren't the best or have great crowds, but that's how you gain experience. That's how you become one of the greats.
Dang. Son had a plan.
Yes, I did.
So
how did you end up Oh, go ahead, bro.
Go ahead, dog.
I ended up at the ROH dojo. Like, it's somewhat prestigious in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get there?
So at the time, Joey Mercury came back. He was kind of like coaching classes a little bit at MCW. He would take some of the vets off to the side. And through that time, he got a job at the ROH dojo. And he also got a job with like a Ring of Honor. And he's like, all right, we're going to bring this dojo system back. I have a couple of dudes that I train with the MCW that I think would be good to like start here at this ground level. And I remember they had the tryout coming up, and I was talking to Moses and like my friend Ken Dixon about it. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I didn't really know what ROH was. I was like, I don't really care to do this tryout. I don't want my life to change again. Like, that was the first time I felt like nerve-wracking decision of, oh shit, these dudes
Wow.
4 days a week. Like, then I'm gonna be traveling. It was just surreal because it was coming real to me. Like, it's one thing to train at MCW twice a week and you're kind of doing shows once a month. You're like, all right, like this is a little foot in the water. Like, I'm doing professional wrestling. Nah, ROH Dojo is the next step of like really fulfilling this dream and like dedicating a lot of time to this craft, which I didn't know how I was going to do that. But we got the opportunity to do the tryout. I kind of was just like, fuck it, whatever. Like, we'll see what happens.
Mm.
Two 10-hour days later, pulled us to the side and like, hey, you guys are invited. Y'all start Monday. Be here at 4 o'clock. And I'm like, fuck, now I got to figure out my life again. Good luck.
So during all this transition, you working a 9 to 5, going through different, what should I say, journeys through wrestling. How were you able to maintain your mental throughout this whole time?
That's tough. Well, like my relationship at the time ended. Like that just wasn't gonna help. They weren't to the dream, so I was like, all right, well, I want to become a professional wrestler, and if you're not gonna support me, then this is over. I think it was kind of like perfect timing in a sense because when I got to the ROH dojo, I moved into my own place. I literally just had my job and wrestling, and that was my supplement for like getting through the breakup. That was my supplement through like getting through life. I'm gonna just literally work, train, wrestle, and not think about anything else. I did that for a year. Like all of 2019 is kind of just a blur because I had no time to think about anything else. At some point, probably had to go to therapy. I did that because it's a lot. It's a lot to take on when you're basically working 2 full-time jobs and like you don't really have a lot of time for your own mental state. And like the ROH dojo was fucking hard. So to like, yeah, you had your brothers and sisters who are going through the same shit with you, but the weekends that you'd get off, I'd literally just sit at home, eat a bunch of food, and watch movies all day. And like, what was going on in my life because it was just a whirlwind.
Wait, what kind of movies?
I'm a huge horror fan, so I like sitting in the dark,
Oh.
just watching like Hereditary and I don't know, crazy weird shit like that.
Okay, so we talking about like the Freddys, the Jasons, the thrillers, or are we talking about like
The Human Centipede.
like A Quiet Place 1 and 2? Like
No.
I like to feel stressed out, so I'm not a huge fan of like Freddy, Jason, like the classic horrors. I try to find like campy B movies, stuff that has like good practical effects. I remember watching like It by myself. That was super weird. I don't know. I'm on the spot now. I'm a huge fan of Child's Play. I'd watch that. Jeepers Creepers. I'm a fan of Leprechaun.
okay.
Weird like off movies. That's what I like.
Okay. So how you feel about Jason Jordan Peele on his take on the comic? I mean, on the horror genre.
Oh man, he's okay. I would say like first with Us, it was okay. It was different. But I think Get Out and I think what he's trying to do with the horror industry, my biggest pet peeve with horror movies, they keep remaking the same shit. Like stop with these Michael Myers movies. He should have been dead 5 years ago. Why are we still continuing to make stuff? Jordan Peele is actually creating original screenplays and then bringing race into these movies too, where that's like a real life horror for us. I think what he's doing is just masterpieces.
Definitely is. Are you a fan of Atlanta?
I am. I've only watched 2 episodes of the new season though, and I remember I was getting my mouth twisted, and my mouth just jaw dropped. Second episode, I'm like, this dude just got like the sheet wrapped over his head.
I was angry. Those first 2 episodes were mad triggering.
Yeah,
Not triggering. Like I haven't went back to watch. Like I enjoyed the show, but like you said, I've been too mad to watch the rest of the season, so I need time to cool off because it made me pissed off. Like how much? I'm thinking that why do I feel like I heard the story before? So I did my research on it, and I said it was real. And it's funny that we ignored it just for the media for that optic picture. I was like, wow, all of a sudden, and to this day, they can't even find that young man that went missing. To this day.
even like the first episode looked like the van and the 2 white women like committing suicide with the kids, I was telling my girl now, like, yo, you know this is based on a true story, right? Like this actually happened. This dude's making this into a TV episode. This is fucking insane.
Casually making it and making and at the end, I felt bad for laughing at certain parts. I was just like, that shit was hilarious with with the chicken that she made in the microwave.
That I don't know why y'all laughing because that shit was. I was pissed because we're both adopted. I don't know why you were even triggered by that shit. Kahn, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a man question.
Okay.
You talked about you having that breakup because she was just like, because your ex was like, nah, I ain't with it.
Yep.
I ain't with this whole wrestling thing. How did you muster like the strength to be like, nah, I'm leaving this because I'm pursuing this? Because a lot of men and a lot of people in general put their significant other over their dreams. How did you like decide like, yo, nah, I'm pursuing this?
Good question.
I mean, honestly, at that point, like I knew the relationship was kind of trembling, but at the same time, I've just seen like parent models where people really aren't happy, right? Like they're like in this relationship, or like my friends' parents are people always divorced and whatnot. And they, like you said, they're like putting the relationship in front of stuff that they want to do. At that time, I don't know how I got to this place in my head, or maybe it was like my mentor that I had in high school. I'm like, I'm not gonna live my life regretting not chasing something. We live for such a short amount of time, like we're barely on this earth at all, just like a little speck. Why would I allow you to like take away something that I was so passionate about, especially when I decided to get back into wrestling? That's like something I was a fanatic about as an adult. Like I love wrestling. You can't be supportive of me chasing that dream. Like I moved to Baltimore because she wanted to move to Baltimore. But like you wouldn't want me to do my one little thing of professional wrestling. Like, and listening to all the podcasts that I listen to documentaries, interviews. I knew being in a relationship would be tough, right? Like these people travel all the time. It's a huge time commitment. But like this is a chance of a lifetime. And the fact that I kind of was succeeding at it fairly early, that's crazy to me. How would you not be supportive of that? So I just got to a place in my head like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, if you can't support me with this, like what are you not really gonna support me with further down the line? That's bullshit.
Talk your shit, King. Talk your shit. It's not your power. Woo! Dang.
It's true though.
It is.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Okay,
What you about to say?
so you do the ROH dojo,
Mm-hmm.
relationship rebuilding. This is 2019. Now we hit 2020. Now we're creeping into this unknown territory called the pandemic. How did the pandemic affect, ROH kind of like completely paused on wrestling while kind of everyone else kind of figured out a way to still run? How did the pandemic affect you as a wrestler and as a person? And how did, when ROH started to run back up again, what kind of new ideas did you guys bring to the table? Because I felt like the pandemic kind of put a hard stop for ROH, but it didn't stop STP though.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that kind of that 2020. What did that year look like for you?
I remember, right? It was funny. I was just going through like my archive story posts on my Instagram just to see like where I was at in my life at certain times. And like the first few months of 2020, the end of 2019, Moses and I were kind of doing like squash matches. So we were kind of getting some experience being thrown in like these multi-tag matches. And then Joey Mercury left Ring of Honor. And I was like, oh shit, like what's going to happen for us now? Because he was kind of honestly like the driving force behind us. Like, hey, these guys are going to be stars, but they need to get experience and you need to put them on the show. Like they need to get that experience of wrestling in front of a live crowd. And then the pandemic hit. And it's crazy to think that like literally the world stopped. Training stopped. That stuff stopped. We didn't do anything for 3 months. And we would have like these conversations like, all right, well, I'm watching WWE do this stuff, so why can't we do it? And like eventually month by month, like, all right, we're going to do these like, I basically call them like COVID tapings, quarantine tapings. It's like, all right, this is what's going to happen. But before that, met with Shane. He was like, all right, I'm going to start this promotion. Like, I'd love to have y'all on board. I already have Rev Ron Hunt. And we're like, hey, we have nothing else going on. We were just squashing people. We have no creative direction. We also are very new to the business. We don't know how to pitch ideas. We don't know what the hell we want for ourselves. It's like, all right,
Mhm.
man, Shane's having this killer Ring of Honor TV title run. Like, fuck, like, why not just go be with this group of his? Again, hard stop, pandemic happens. You're like, fuck, nothing. I mean, it was a nice little break though. At that point, you're gonna tell, like, I remember Moses telling me when I first started to wrestle, like, you're gonna fall in love with wrestling. It's gonna happen. This is gonna be a struggle. There's days you didn't want to go train. There's days you don't even want to watch this shit because it becomes so life consuming. Once you get in the business, this is like your world view. This is all you kind of see. So it was a nice little break. But then when the pandemic taping started, we're like, all right, here's a nice little reset. And I think that the creative team or whoever had an idea in mind where, like, our first match back was with the Briscoes and EC3. And I was like, all right, okay, we starting hot. Like, that's a big step up. That's a big fucking step up. And we're winning. All right, like, this is like the momentum, and this is a chance to prove ourselves. Next match that Moses and I had is against the Briscoes. I'm like, all right, yep, this is exactly the direction that we need to go. Eventually, to talk about the 6-man title run. And, like, as we were just gaining momentum, but we would hear about, like, some of the frustrations from Shane, like, of what everything else is happening. Like, all right, let's keep having these fucking banger ass matches. Perception is reality. We have banger matches, dope promos. We're gonna present this on social media in a way where people are like, what the fuck is going on in Ring of Honor with STP? Because, like, there's some dope shit happening here. And, like, we made people tune in to watch us. Like, we worked our asses off to get to that point. And, like, honestly, I think it wasn't the best. Like, we didn't have, like, the screens with people's faces on it or whatnot, but it was a great atmosphere to really hone your skill and, like, go out there and just fucking perform like you did at the dojo, where there was no live crowd, but you were being thrown in there with Mexa Squad. You're being thrown in there with fucking Roosh and LFI. We were getting thrown over there with all the top stars at ROH. I'm like, all right, they must have some faith in us, because they wouldn't be putting us in that position if we weren't going to be able to perform.
True. So true.
So you guys are red hot. STP not only is making noise in ROH, but also on the indies too. And I think it was always important. And I tell Shane all the time, I think what you guys were doing was important, not only for the business, but for the culture itself. Because it had been some time, it was Hurt Business was around, New Day's been around. It's been a time where we don't really see a lot of our Black men coming together. So you guys kind of breaking that mold for ROH, I think set the bar kind of high. So talk a little bit about, if you can, the struggles, and you guys kind of going to creative and saying, like, this is the direction we want to go in, and how did you guys overcome any pushback? And then kind of talk about, like, that looming day of, like, getting that kind of call, like, so yeah, ROH is no more. We ain't got it. Like, because I think it was like one day everything was cool and everybody was on the up and up, and then the next minute it almost felt like the rug was kind of pulled under you guys. So talk a little bit about that journey, those ups and downs, trying to get everybody on ROH to understand, the value of STP.
I think from my experience, I mean, like, myself, I know Shane would have, like, a lot of conversations with people, and he would, like, tell us things. But at the same time, Moses and I were kind of like, unfortunately, we're not, like, in control of this situation. Because, like, I don't know, the booker creative is going to make the decisions of what they want to do. You have to do the best with what you get. And, like, all right, I'm going to just keep fucking showing up and showing y'all. Like, especially when we did our live shows and they were chanting STP before we even went out. I'd be screaming at the camera, like, do you fucking hear this? Like, do you fucking hear this? I'd be screaming dead at the camera, like, what? Like, how do y'all not hear that and see that we're making money for y'all? Like, what is happening here? I mean, I'm happy, though, that we got the 6-man title run. Like, if anything, we're going to be in the history books for the rest of my life. Like, my name's going to be cemented in that. I wish Moses and I could have had a program with the Briscoes. That was, like, the plan. I'm like, new guard, old guard, this would have been a fucking awesome ass feud to have, especially because we were, like, super cool with these dudes, but we could cut promos back and forth with one another where we're, like, the same, like, savage style of talking and, like, fighting. I know Shane dealt with, like, a lot more stuff than we did, and then that day came.
Dang, walk us through it.
Because no one prepares you for that. Because, like, I can, like, we're all very transparent about our lives inside and outside of the business. Like, when the pandemic happened and I lost my job I had no control over that. I didn't know what to fucking do. Like, I was just like, what is this? So talk about like that transition of like what the fuck to where you are now.
So like again, like kind of theme of my life, I made sure I was very financially secure before I got into this, and unfortunately, I worked a remote job where that happened. I took a hit to like my financial situation, but I still had my like shoot job going on. And like I knew Moses and I were talking about like our contracts were kind of coming up in March, and I was like, all right, man, like what do you want to do? Cool, we have the 6-man title run, but at the same time, like I feel like we're really like we're building momentum, but I feel like we're not doing. I thought we were in with the tag belts when we wrestled LFI. Like that would have been fucking great. Like why the hell not
Okay.
double champs? Like I felt something in the air that day when we went to the venue, and then that didn't happen. I was like, all right, man. Like I'm kind of cool leaving if nothing happens. We've been here for 3 years. Also, but if they want to resign us and throw some money my way, I could look at that situation. I don't want to move to Florida. And then that day came, and it's just funny. Like I feel really bad for the people who all they did was wrestle. Like this is their livelihood, and they just lost their job on this fucking Zoom call, and then they ask you to come back to work, which is crazy to me.
Hold on. You can't be dropping stuff. I hate when wrestlers do this.
Just casually.
Mad
Casually.
fact.
Hold on.
So,
Wait.
back it up.
Let's back up. For a second. This was done on a Zoom call?
Yeah, like I feel like people already done that.
No, yeah, like you would think that individually they would like contact you and be like, listen, this is what's going on, this is the deal. But like getting a roster full of people on a Zoom call, that's pretty wild.
So how was that environment when people found out the news during the Zoom call? Was a lot of hanging up of people dropping calls like fuck this shit, click, 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 like in a row, click, click, click. Was it like that?
It was, to me, it kind of felt like a funeral. Like it really did. Like people were crying. They were super like sad about the situation. I was texting Moses like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is this?
Wow.
Because of course they're like, okay, they were just taking a hiatus where everyone's contracts are up at the end of the year. We're coming back, but again, this is a hiatus, but everyone's released. So that's cool. The company might continue down the line, which it has, but yet none of us are going to be here unless there's certain people that y'all want to come back. So like, okay, this is the situation, and we have TV tapings in a week or whatever. Like, okay, cool, that's gonna be fun. And then we have Final Battle. That's really gonna be fun. Because I remember the TV tapings, like, it was so uncomfortable to be there. Like, I just sat in my room and chilled all day. We had a match, and I'm like, are we even gonna take this shit seriously today? Like, why would y'all do that? It's I don't know, but at the same, it's like putting in your 2 weeks, right? But you go to work, but you're also kind of like helping people transition to take your job. You don't actually get fired and then asked to come back to work for the next month. Like that doesn't happen.
So wait,
you know what? I never thought about it like that.
I never thought about that. So
how do you tell someone like, yeah, listen, this ain't we good, but I'm gonna need you to handle the last 3 weeks. Like what?
So I got a question. How was that conversation when it told you guys y'all losing the 6-man title?
Which was bullshit. I can say it for you because I'm not under no contract and I ain't got no ties to nobody. It was complete.
I can say the same thing. And ever since y'all guys lost it, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? I'm just saying, it could left it on y'all. That could be promoting it, been everywhere with it. I'm just saying. You feel me?
That was never the plan. But Kahn, please talk about that day of Final Battle.
You see, you feel me? Like I want to see y'all destroy, some white man in the ring in AEW. What's that group called again? The bloody man center group with the Combat Club. I want to see SPT versus them. What? In Texas Death Match?
Now we just fake booking. All right, Kahn, tell us about Final Battle, please.
Yes, like how was that conversation?
And also talk about the moment you guys kind of made. Like you guys made a statement at the end of the match, which I was really upset I wasn't physically there for. So kind of just walk us through that kind of day of Final Battle.
Talk to us.
It was what was that like?
The conversation said that you guys are losing it. Come on, start off with that.
it was a little surreal. Like they didn't tell us that. We kind of just heard from secondhand that we were losing, and I kind of honestly I kind of expected that. I was like, okay, like if this is the hiatus, this is the end of all of us being here. Whatever. Like I don't know where they're gonna go with this. Again,
Wow.
we kind of have to do our job, so that's what it is. And people were already kind of just checked out because we all were. This is our last day at Ring of Honor, right? I didn't realize how emotional I was gonna get till after our 6-man match. One, I was pissed off that we were on the pre-show. I was furious about that. Like, I feel like a lot of the time they were just like, "Oh yeah, like whatever. You guys been champs for a fucking year, but y'all can do the pre-show. Y'all can be the first match too. Cool,
Yeah,
okay."
yeah.
But then at the end of that match, like I just broke down. I remember Bateman talking to me. He's like, "Are you okay, bro?" I'm like, "Yeah," but at the same time, this is like a culmination of 5 years of working my ass off, 3 years of really going through some shit at Ring of Honor. We just lost the belts. Like, it's kind of real to me, right? This is surreal. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. I mean, I know it was gonna happen in a few days. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen with Ring of Honor and like my people after this day. Like, this shit sucks. It fucking sucks. We're out here, time getting cut, promos are playing, but they're yelling at us to get the fuck out the ring. And I'm like, can I just take a moment to look at all these people? We've only got to perform in front of people 4 times in the past 2 years or some shit. Like, you're just taking this moment away from us. So I was like on the floor, bawling my eyes out. I was just like, fuck, man, this is everything's gonna change again. That's how I felt. Like everything's changing again. And then after Shane's match, I remember him just being like, yo, moment that bell rings, because we already saw what was happening throughout the show. Sprint to that fucking ring. It's like, all right, cool, whatever. Like to me at the time, it was just a pose. I'm like, all right, yep, this is our solidarity pose. Like all of the black talent out here, besides Lethal and Gresh, because they're in the main event. Like this is our moment. And I have to like remind people sometimes, Ring of Honor, Ben had black champions. Like it really did. It has a really diverse
Okay.
and like, hey, Roosh was a champion for a year. Like we really be having like black champions all over this place or people of color. Uh, I didn't realize how big that moment was going to be until like scrolling through Twitter the next day, and I'm like, oh shit! You realize you'd actually probably never see this on WWE TV. You probably never see this anywhere else. And like they didn't allow us to do that, but we took that moment like, nah, this is our last time together. Like we have a brotherhood here. We're gonna show up for the people, and like this is our moment. And to see how that people took that and were like, damn, y'all made our day. Y'all really have changed like the complexion of how we feel about professional wrestling. To see all y'all out here killing it, that's just like heartwarming to me.
I
See,
feel
I
like
understand that.
we don't appreciate these moments of black unity on the indie so much unless it's on the big screen. Because Hoodfoot versus Billy Dixon, the first ever black man main eventing a death match. Why is that not a bigger deal? But yet, if it was on WWE TV or AEW, the whole world would be like on heels. You understand?
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago we basically the first we made it. We had two black women so basically sold out an indie show main eventing. It wasn't a big deal, but when WWE did it, the whole internet melted. We don't appreciate these moments
Mhm.
on the smaller scale, the medium scale, and the large scale. Always have to be big. Is black people been doing the wrestling for years, but we don't matter fact that like that. The fact you said that, I'm like that was a big moment, but you don't appreciate this. Wow.
I don't know. I think it's just that seems like
What's next for you though? Like
Mhm.
what? Okay, the ROH thing is over. How is that transition happening? How did that transition happen to be on AEW Dark to being signed? Quotes AEW ROH thing that's going on. Whatever, but you know what I mean. How did that happen? And what? How are you? First things first. How are you feeling? Because ROH is done now,
yeah.
and you at home,
Supposedly.
quote unquote. It's done. You're at home, and you're like, fuck. Like you just said. 3 years, you busting your ass in this company. 5 years, you gave up a lot.
Yep.
What's going through your head?
A couple things. I knew after we got that Zoom call, the next tapings, I got a little birdie in my ear, like, hey, someone from AEW wants to talk to you. I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. I'll have that to think about. And I kind of set up the situation. They're going to be in Texas after final battle. So I kind of had my steps planned. I had to like remind myself, like I talked about, people really grind and do this shit for like 15 years before they get put on anywhere. Like one of my really good friends, Brian Johnson, has been wrestling for 15 years. He was wrestling for 13 years before he got signed to Ring of Honor. And I'm like, all right, I'm only 5 years in. People do this for decades before they blow up. So like it's just like a little mind check. I'm very fortunate for the situation that I've been in. I'm very fortunate that I got signed to Ring of Honor for a couple of years. But again, I never really hit the indies. I never really had to work my ass off outside of that capacity and like go talk to promoters, show up at shows and go help with shit. I basically started over when I moved to Texas. I was just showing up at shows. And they're like, why are you're a Ring of Honor star? I'm like, but these motherfuckers don't know who I am. So I need to showcase myself and prove to them that, hey, I'm a good worker. And like, y'all can need me on your fucking show because I'm going to be a star. So that's the mentality that I was like slowly transforming to. And then again, get the birdie in my ear about AEW. I talked to them and I'm like, all right, here's another opportunity to like, here's the first opportunity to really showcase myself. All this work didn't go for fucking nothing. Like this is the little step up right now to really prove myself and showcase to these people. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, fuck not being unsigned for a long time. Like I'm gonna make this transition happen fucking quick. I'm gonna go from Ring of Honor, lose my job. All right, cool. I get 6 months to get signed somewhere else. Like that's what's gonna happen. And I say this shit out loud to myself because that's the mentality that I'm having. Like, all right, working my ass off. I'm not gonna be grinding on indies too long. It's fun, but no, I deserve to be on a much bigger platform than what the hell I'm on right now.
So,
man, that's deep.
Dang, there's a lot of questions. So, what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out the business?
Oh man, damn. I think there's a couple things. One, make sure you really want to do this shit. Like, really make sure you want to do this. I listen to like Mark Henry talk a lot. Listen to Bully Ray talk. I was even talking to Boogeyman in the show. There's people I think that sign to do professional wrestling because it seems so attainable now, and like anyone can pay money and go to school and get trained by whoever. But like we've exposed the business to a point where everyone knows everything. People don't like to wrestle physical like they used to do back in the 80s and 90s. That's how I like to work. Like I like to be very physical, hard hitting. I like if pain and suffering is happening throughout the match, throughout the entire show, I'm selling those injuries. Like people don't work like this is a real thing anymore. They just work like it's an entertainment thing. And I get it. It is for WWE and like other places. But this is a fucking tough business and people need to toughen the hell up if they want to do this shit. Period. People would complain about, I'll never forget this one kid. He came off the ring during training. He like smacked his ankle on the fucking side of the apron. He's like, oh, there's a board sticking out here? Like, bitch, and we're bumping in this ring. What are you going to complain about right now? I kind of gave him the treatment that guy gave me that first day where I was like, is there a treadmill here? I'm like, hey, you're going to come do this. I don't want to hear you complaining about this. You need to be in shape when you come here. Lock in, because we're only here for X amount of time to learn this stuff. Stop talking. This isn't a game to me. If it's a game to you, you don't need to fucking be here because I'm trying to be a GOAT. Like, that's the mentality. Don't waste my fucking time. And a lot of people come in like that where it's just like, oh, we're going to do flippy cool shit. That's cool, but that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, let's actually wrestle. Let's work. Let's tell stories. Let's create emotion. That's what got me into this business. Like, I was a huge fan of Jeff Hardy getting his ass kicked, but like the emotion that you could see in his face, even Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, like the emotion, that's what I want to feel. That's what I want people to feel when I perform. I think that's just not, I think it's coming back, but it was definitely a lost art for some time.
Bitch ass niggas out here, B.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Stop being bitch ass niggas, B.
Nah, he's right. He's right. When you're training, you see a lot of them. You see a lot of niggas like that complaining. Oh, where, I didn't get a spot, this, that, and third. I'm not doing that. Become like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, you shut the fuck up. You listen. Your time will come. You cheer on the next man. You feel me? Because when your time has come, the same man you cheer on will cheer on for you. Each one teach one.
Or stop, but like Kahn said, stop being a bitch ass nigga.
That's not what he said. When you got that little birdie,
I'll be a bitch ass nigga. Kahn.
When you got the birdie in your ear about AEW, were there others that was flying around in your ear wanting to be interested, or was AEW just the only one?
Yeah.
It was just from AEW, but I knew that I have connections elsewhere that if I wanted to take like that initiative and go somewhere else and try that at least, then I could do that. Like I've made enough connections in this business where hey, if I want to go do a tryout, I could probably go do that. And I hold myself very highly where I think like I know I'm a commodity. I know how I look. I know that I'm a good wrestler. I'm safe. Like I know the intensity that I bring. I know that other people probably would want me. Like that's how I got brought to ROH because Joey saw me and Mercury worked with the Shield. Like he was the fourth member of the Shield, basically. Like I knew that if I wanted to go take other opportunities, I could. But again, I didn't want to move to Florida. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I was about to ask you why you don't want to move to Florida. I'm not against that either, but why would you?
Why
say
not?
that?
I don't know. Like it's another move. I hate the heat already, and then you just kind of see
You're
what the
living
business.
in Texas.
No, I'm being a hypocrite. But you see what the
Yeah.
business is. Like Tahuti Miles is one of my really good friends, and he lost his job after he moved to Orlando. Like to see stuff like that, I'm like, I'm good. I'm kind of too old, and I have my life set up in a certain way where I'm content staying here right now. Again, that could change in a year. At least my mindset was like, I'm not moving to Orlando. That's not happening.
See, that's a different type of thing.
So, question: you mentioned something earlier, earlier when we were speaking that you're an introvert.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm one too.
Okay.
I hate people.
They all are. The both of them. Let me not sugarcoat that for you.
I hate it all. But how do you overcome that? And you say you listen to a lot of podcasts. What podcasts do you listen to? Double part question, brother.
Right.
Good question, big bro. Good question.
It definitely has taken some time to overcome that. Again, I think that's why I also wanted to do the tag team thing. So the spotlight I didn't feel like it was on me by myself going out there. It was on both of us. I could like hide myself on the apron where Moses was up performing or Shane was performing. But I think with this repetition of putting myself out there, because again, I want to challenge myself to get outside this box. When I started wrestling by myself, it's like, all right, very uncomfortable, but hey, I want to go wrestle this person at this place. Let's do it. At that point, I'm like just signing up to do things, and I'm like, fuck, here I gotta go. But then I'm forcing myself to grow. At the same time, like after these shows, I literally decompress and I sit in my house or I work out with my headphones on. I don't talk to people for like 3 days. There's definitely like ebbs and flows with that. When it comes to podcast, I've been listening to this dude Mark Bell. I think it's like the Power Podcast. He's like big into fitness.
Yes, I love Mark Bell. Mark Bell is one of the is a legendary lifter in the business. I think he powerlifted.
So do I have to be like a powerlifter to like the podcast?
No.
He talks about all types of him. I think it's him and Nassim. They talk about like men's mental health. They talk about just like
Mark Bell. Okay.
Yeah, they talk about all kinds of things. But again, otherwise, I'm a huge wrestling fan, so I listen to like a lot of wrestling podcasts because that's what I do. I also started listening to this show called Armored. It's about like armored truck robberies. That's kind of intriguing. I don't know how I stumbled across that, but you hear about like the armored truck robberies that happen all over this country. It's kind of insane.
Yo, there was one in Florida where the guys almost got away with it. And the reason why they didn't was because the original guy they had asked to be on the armor truck, he's the one that snitched. They asked him to be a part of it, and then he said no. And then when he saw them like out and about and like they got away with it, he was like, nah, let me snitch on them real quick. They had ended up stealing like almost, I think it was maybe $250,000 from Miami International Airport. It was the wildest thing.
Yo.
You know what show?
I ain't gonna hold you. Stuff like
my
that,
bad.
documentaries, all that shit. I love it.
You know what? Like another podcast you may like. It's called Air Hustle. It's where people like stories from jail. I'm talking about lifers, people what happened to them after jail, how they got into jail. I'm talking about racists, pedophiles, you name it. They talk on the show. So that's what you get into. Air Hustle.
I have to check that out.
So you say you go home, you kind of put your headphones on, because I'm the same way. And
why does every wrestler have big ass headphones?
Yeah, why?
You, O'Shea got the same thing.
It tells people I don't want to fucking talk to you. Like, leave me the hell alone.
Very clear.
Oh.
Very clear indicator.
Okay.
I'm the same way. So what are you listening to though? What music do you listen to? Because I love my hood rat shit. But I love my shoot 'em up bang bang music. But what are you listening to?
Yeah, they talking about pushing code. All that he like that.
But what are you listening to like, you know, when you have that little bit of downtime? Because I understand, like, I forgot who spoke about it, but they were like, when you go out, Brock talked about it. When you go out to the stadium, you're giving your energy to the people that are around you, and then you feel so exhausted after. So what are you listening to get through it?
Oh man, I feel like I'm having this weird relationship with music as I get older, because I realize a lot of new music that comes out I don't really like at all. So I'm like, all right, what did I listen to back in 2001 that like I used to bang out to, or like what was I listening to in high school that I used to have on repeat, where I used to buy CDs and have the CD player and I would just go that thing until that shit burnt out too. So honestly, I've been getting back into some old school Kanye. Like, I watched his documentary. I'm 2 episodes in, and I'm like, yo, College Dropout, probably one of my favorite albums of all time. So
straight through. Like, watching him make his beats for that, I'm like, this is a fucking classic, yo. But then I'm a huge fan of like R&B, honestly. Like, I like listening to The Weeknd. I like listening to someone said SZA, yep, SZA, Kehlani, like Janae Aiko. I like listening to that slow, mellow stuff because I just want to like mellow out in my house. Wow.
Oh, we got an R&B guy. I feel like that's the first time.
Yeah, the first time, yeah. Everybody say hip hop.
Everybody goes hip hop. They go hardcore rap. Like, no one goes like, let me be sensual and let me get my R&B on.
It's a vibe. I was driving home back from Dallas listening to Music Soul Child. I'm like, yo, what happened to Music Soul Child? Like, he said
Music Soul Child. That's a throwback.
BUDDBY. Yes. Like, come on.
See me why?
Back in the day, like, that was the stuff that I used to listen to growing up.
Well, yeah. Talk a little bit about you growing up. Like, you from what, Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota.
How does the black man survive in Minnesota?
And I didn't know there's black people in Minnesota. I didn't even know that.
Well, so my dad's from Cameroon, so there's a lot of Cameroonians that immigrated to Minnesota. And then my mom's from Wisconsin. So
how did that happen?
Long story short, he came from Cameroon to Pennsylvania to go to college. I think there's like this lottery system, right, for people to come over and go to school here. And then he, I guess, just stopped college in Pennsylvania, then went to Minnesota because that's where his brother was living. So like a big Cameroonian population there. And then, I mean, Minneapolis is diverse. Outskirts of Minnesota, yes, very, very white. Like, you think about up north Minnesota, probably don't want to go up there. But yeah, Minneapolis is pretty diverse. And I think Minneapolis is probably like a great place to literally raise a family. I remember growing up on my block, there was like 10 kids my age. So you'd go out there and be able to play football 5-on-5. We play freeze tag all through the neighborhood. We lived right about like around a couple of lakes, bike rides through the summer. Like, it was like the all-American, whatever the hell that would be, childhood of just outside running.
Okay.
Yeah, with my friends. So yeah, it's a great place to live. I don't know if I'd go back there to live after what happened, in 2020.
Right. I was gonna say, like, how did that affect you with the George Floyd, incident, and actually growing up like as a black kid in Minnesota? Like, how did that affect you? And like, do you see that those glimpses of racism in wrestling? I mean, everybody has their own experiences.
Good question, Janelle. Great question.
But like, do you have you experienced that as well? Like, what's your kind of thought on that?
Yeah, going back to Minneapolis was very tough. Just because I grew up like 10 minutes from where that happened, so I knew the street. Like, I could see the neighborhood, like where that happened, and I saw my friends, my cousins protesting. Like, it was very uncomfortable to be around. And like, honestly, and I don't talk about it much, but I've always struggled with like my own identity being biracial. Like my dad being from Cameroon, he would tell me about the racism that he would experience from other black people or white people, but because he's African.
Yeah.
Like my mom being white, people always used to think I was adopted because I'd always been my mom all the time. So like you growing up, of course, you hear like you're never black enough to hang with black kids, you're never white enough to hang with white kids. And my dad's an immigrant, so all this black culture shit right over my head. Like I don't grow up with that stuff. I go up going to FECO, like it's called FECO conventions, like these Cameroonian conventions where like African food, listen to traditional music, and then people. I didn't get into hip hop until like high school. I didn't know any of this shit. Like my dad wasn't telling me about making music, right? So when it comes to racism in wrestling, though, not like straightforward racism. My biggest issue, my biggest pet peeve, is people thinking that I'm Polynesian or Samoan. Honestly, like there is more than one type of culture that can have tribal tattoos. I know that I have a tribal tattoo, but what I have tattooed on me is the Bakwari elephant mask from my specific village from Cameroon. So like I'll yell at people in the crowd because I don't think that I look Samoan. I don't think I look Polynesian.
At all.
Like,
It is not close.
Hold on. That's racist.
Yeah,
That's
like,
racist.
that's wild. Like what? Because they
So-
have a very distinct look to them. Like you can tell that. So like someone telling you that, I'll be like, are they
So you
looking
think
at
that
you? Like what?
you see like the majority of wrestling fans from a large scale, they see a brown person with a particular type of tattoo, and they're like, all right, in that box. But I tell people like, would you do that with white wrestlers? No, you wouldn't. If you saw a white dude, bald head, you wouldn't think Stone Cold Steve Austin. But with me, you always say like, Roman Reigns. But why is it for white wrestlers you don't compare them the same way? That's my issue with like a lot of people.
Oh,
'Cause you just
I
generalize.
mean, true. But then again, if I see a white wrestler with bald head, I think skinhead.
Okay, so like, see again, but people are generalizing, so they do that, and I'm like, why don't you do it with everybody? You do that with me all the time, and I'm like screaming at kids at these shows, like, oh, they'll say Uso, and I'm like,
Wrong show, wrong person.
yeah.
Even somebody in the audience said the same.
So
I ain't gonna lie, I made that mistake myself.
What?
Who has said that?
But you also gotta understand.
Eric.
You also gotta understand is that people aren't educated.
oh, of course.
And I think one of the biggest problems with, and I'm not gonna say all wrestling fans, they don't see the world outside of wrestling sometimes.
Yeah.
They haven't seen it. And I wanna go a little bit deeper in you trying to find yourself. And because it's crazy because they always say that the character that you are is your true self. The character that you play in wrestling is like your exaggerated self. And you seem like a serial killer in the ring. So I'm assuming you got some serial killer instincts.
Yes. He's an introvert, so he does.
Yes. But
Because it's the ones that are quiet you gotta watch.
Exactly.
Yes.
But how did you find yourself? Because for instance, me and my brother, as Mr. Black and I are brothers, we're Haitian.
Okay.
So a lot of Black culture stuff, we didn't find out about it until we got to school.
Yep.
Because my mom is super, super Haitian. But it's, having the right friends around you. And I don't think I was a hip hop head just like yourself until high school.
Yep.
And it was my brother finding out CDs from the neighbors, bringing it home. I was like, this shit fire, my nigga. Play this shit.
Yeah.
How did you like really come into yourself? Because it takes a long time. You talked about therapy. You talked about just trying to find it. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm black. As you can see by my nose and our features, but you're biracial. So that's another layer, my nigga. You got an African dad, you biracial. Like, how are you maneuvering this shit into your adult life as well?
Walk us through it, dog. Come on, this is your time, dogs.
I mean, like you said, it took, and it's still like a taking a long time. It's something that I feel like it's going to be continuing to evolve all the time. So it probably wasn't until I got to college where I was like, all right, I'm gonna start taking some of these Africana study classes, right? Like I was gonna minor in that. Like, all right, I don't really know too much about the countries in Africa, so let's take these African studies classes and learn all about different cultures, or at least what they're gonna present to us in these classes. So I take classes every year on that kind of stuff. and then more as I got older, kind of talking to my dad about like where we came from. And then I actually had the opportunity to go back to Cameroon. So like I'd go to these conventions and festivals as a kid, and I didn't really know the importance of the stuff that he was showing me until I went to Cameroon when I was in my early 20s. My grandfather was the chief of the village that we're from. My uncle was being sworn in to become the new chief, and then my
Wait. So you like
He's the
you got
legit
your own
tribal chief.
bloodline, my nigga.
He's the
You got your
legit
own
tribal chief.
bloodline.
yeah.
You see how you just bulldog through stuff?
Man in it? Yeah.
Nah, it's smooth. Like, yo, this man has a whole lifetime story, B. Come on, take your time telling it, King. Take your time.
He's the only tribal chief I acknowledge now.
Yes. Kahn.
So yeah, like my grandfather was the chief of our village, in Bua, and then my grandmother passed away right before we went out. Like we went out there to visit, and like you saw, I got to see like this huge ceremony where like all the men of the different villages that came, when there's like chiefdom Passover thing was happening, where my uncle was coming the new chief, where everyone would come. They brought like pigs and goats to be like sacrificed for food for all the men to eat. All the women were behind the houses cooking and doing all the cleaning and stuff for us. And like it was like 100 people out there. And like the day I landed, within 6 hours, this was happening. And I'm just like fucking mind blown.
What?
It was insane to see. And like in the background was Mount Cameroon. Like you could see that from like our place that we were staying. So yeah, like I tell people like I'm real African royalty, like I'm a prince, like I get treated like royalty back there. And like learning this stuff and like kind of asking my dad the questions like, okay, so we're Bakwari tribe. What does that mean? For us, it means that we have like a spiritual connection to elephants. We believe that we can like shapeshift into elephants. There's this whole thing called the elephant dance, where I'm trying to actually find like the traditional elephant dance mask. They're like a couple grand. They barely exist anymore. So I'm trying to find one of those. Yeah, it's crazy to see that that's like part of my heritage. And at the same time, like my mom is Irish and Czechoslovakian, so
Wait, hold on.
Wait. Again, slow down, King. Slow down. This man's a real.
Parents even meet? Like what? How did
this man's a real Prince Hakeem of wrestling? Wow. Okay.
Wait.
So you know we call you that now, right? You are Prince Kahn now. You are
Prince Kahn.
You are Prince Kahn.
Prince Kahn.
I was talking to Prince Nana hit me up one time and he was like, hey man, like I love the work that you're doing. I'm like, oh shit, yo, you're like a ROH legend.
What? Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, like just trying to like figure out all this stuff. Because it's still weird to me when people are like, all right, you're like a black man. I'm like, but my dad's Cameroonian. Like I'm Cameroonian in my head, or I'm like I'm biracial because I can't just identify to one thing. My mom is Irish and Czech. Like that's a huge part of my life too. But I get like outwardly presenting, right? I'm dark brown and I have dreadlocks, but they would never know that this woman is like my mother. But it's just like educating people about this stuff. Like it's very important to me. That's why I've been pushing this Cameroonian thing a lot when I wrestle now, because you don't see a lot of like
you
African.
don't hear it or you don't see it. Mm-hmm.
Like now when Apollo got to do his thing with Nigeria, I'm like, that's fucking dope. Like that's what we're trying to do. Like to educate these people. There's different countries in Africa and we can all have our own heritage. We can bring that to the main stage of professional wrestling. So that's what I'm trying to do with like showcasing my heritage. All right, Cameroonian Prince, like the elephant mask, like all this cool stuff that we can teach people about. But also I've met other Cameroonian wrestlers who are like, man, that's so cool. Like I thought I was the only one. But no, there's a couple of us. And like,
wait, who else is Cameroonian? Hold on a minute. Let me know. I want to know.
I'm getting my notepad out.
There's two other that I've talked to. I cannot recall his name right now though, but I met him at the ROH like in Atlanta. And there was another guy from LA that just DM'd me and he was like, hey man, I'm Cameroonian too. I'm like, like just like getting that stuff out there. Even other people that are from like Ghana, Nigeria, like, oh, that's cool. Like you do that stuff too. But we have that connection, right? Like our parents immigrated from somewhere, but we all have this tie back to Africa.
Dang.
What's the wrestling scene like in Africa? Do you know? Like, do they wrestle like in Africa? Like,
so
what's
they
going,
do.
what's going on?
They have I know there's like promotions in South Africa. But But I gotta also tell people too, like, there's this thing called wasua, which is like a traditional form of wrestling. So back in the day, they used to do this traditional amateur Greco-style Roman wrestling. Whoever got slammed first to the ground, like that's how they decided who the chief was of the village. Like that's
On some Black Panther.
That's some
Okay.
Black Panther shit. Yeah.
tied into where my dad and my people are from. And I'm like, again, this is my whole mentality with wrestling. Like, I feel like I'm destined to do this because that's what my people were doing hundreds of years ago. Like, there's tradition. They don't do it anymore. They kind of do it for sport. They don't like determine chiefs. But it's still something that they do out there.
Wow, son.
All right, so let's break this down real quick.
Prince Kahn.
Prince Kahn from Cameroon. That's first of all. Irish and Slovakian, if I'm pronouncing it right.
Czechoslovakia.
Wow. So have
Your
you
mom's
ever,
even cultured. That's
have you
wild.
ever like got involved with mom's side as well, like learned about her culture? Because I know that African culture is strong, bro. Like that's like hundreds and hundreds of years of royalty and everything. But have you ever like tapped into that side of Mama Duke's side?
Yep. So Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore. It's like the Czech Republic. And I found out where my grandfather on her side was from. It's called this small village called like Trenčín, Slovakia. I actually have like the castle tattooed on my shoulder. And then like I know my mom and her mom went back to Ireland. I've always wanted to go back there. I actually did an interview with this dude from Ireland. I'm like, hey, I definitely want to go out there because there's wrestling out there, but I also want to learn about that side of the culture too. But like you said, it's not as strong. Like, plus it's not like I don't know all these cool things about that side of the family. Like I definitely want to go out there because again, it's all a part of who encompasses who I am. So that's important.
Bruh. You got a story on you, man. You didn't stop talking.
Right? Like,
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Like I think I learned the most about you. Probably you're like the top 5 interviews we've done where we learned the most. Because you have been so cerebral assassin-ish, which is beautiful because it works for your brand and what you've been doing. But this is why we do this. To be honest, this is why all 3 of us do these interviews so we can learn about the behind the scenes and who you guys are.
Yeah, like we want to be able to pull back the layers so that not only us but also the viewers and the listeners know, like, okay, this is somebody that I can relate to. And I think that's the beauty about wrestling is being able to find, other people that you can relate to. Like you talked about when wrestling evoked emotion. I always say that. I said, listen, I watch wrestling because it brought that like, shit, like I could watch this, I could be dramatic, I could do this, I could do that. Like it invoked that emotion inside of me. And I think it's important to showcase that. And I was so glad when you said that because I was like, oh my God, I say that all the time. Like that's always sometimes missing is that, that emotion, that storytelling, that psychology, like all those things that got us as a kid. And you talked about you loving wrestling from the beginning. So best question, top 5 wrestlers of all time.
Wait, best 5 wrestlers of all time?
Your favorite. No particular order. No particular order. Your favorite. Your favorite.
Oh, I'm stressed out. My 5, I'm gonna go like with how I like my childhood teen years of why I was obsessed with wrestling. My 5, Jeff Hardy, number 1. Like he's always been number 1 to me.
Black people love Jeff Hardy.
He's number 1. Rey Mysterio would be number 2. Booker T. I was a huge fan of Booker T. Oh man, this is gonna be tough with the last 2. Who am I tuning in for? Shit. Probably Jericho. It's gonna be Jericho. Because I remember when he won the undisputed belts, and I was like, this motherfucker really won both these belts at the same time. But he was
all of us did.
Man, who would the 5th be? That's tough. I don't know. I liked like the mid card people. I liked Shelton Benjamin. I liked Carlito Morrison. I was fans of those dudes because they were putting on banger matches, and I felt like they all deserved like world. That just reminds me, Ziggler. Ziggler would probably be number 5.
Ooh, he said Zig.
What?
He said Ziggy.
Nigga, dog
Yes.
underrated. Dog Ziggles? Ooh, that's my son.
Zig. Yep.
He won the heavyweight belt and like he screamed. Like I felt that. I'm like, oh, you fucking deserve this shit. Like you had the WrestleMania pop. Like, oh, I felt that. I felt it.
Then they booked him bad right after.
Man, I think he got a concussion, but like,
Yeah, they never.
I was so happy he had his moment though, because you could just see him having these matches and like he was just grinding when he won Money in the Bank, and then he finally cashed in like there was a little dip, right? Like Del Rio kicked out of his shit. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna lose. He's gonna lose. Then he won. Love that dude.
Yeah.
That's fire. One more thing, because you no homo, pause in advance. You got the body that a lot of people like, B. You got industry standard body.
No, you can say it, man. You sexy, my nigga. You a sexy man, my nigga. Very sexy.
So, have you ever been labeled a body guy, low key?
Ooh, good question, Sir Wilkes. Good question.
Maybe, but not to my face. Because I think my
To some people that wait, before you answer this, to some people may not know what exactly is a label as a bodyguard.
I mean, I think in my head, the first thing that would pop up was just like big jacked up dude who looks great but probably isn't the best worker. And I think my athleticism, like people can see that I'm athletic. Like, I think like Mark Henry was like, oh, this dude played D2 football. Like he looks like an athlete. So I'm not like super tall or anything, but they're like, okay, he's in really good shape, but he looks like an athlete. I think there's a different way to classify it. I'm not too jacked up to the point where I really can't like move my arms.
Thank God.
What are your workouts like for people who try to get into the business? Because you spoke about how that you would work your full-time job, hit ROH, then hit the gym right after.
Yep.
What are some things that you're doing in the gym and some tips you can give to people who are trying to look like an athlete and try to do and have that look?
I'm gonna say what works well for me. I've been intermittent fasting for 6 years, so I'll fast 16. I don't like eating breakfast. You're technically breaking your fast when you break the fast, so I don't care to eat in the morning. I push myself extremely, extremely hard, and I don't think people do that sometimes. I feel like people spend a lot of time on their phone at the gym. I'm at a place where when I'm doing like supersets or giant sets, and I'm keeping my heart rate up very high, and I'm also lifting like explosively heavy because I'm trying to replicate what I'm doing in the ring or like old football workouts. So if I'm doing like a giant set, I'm ripping out 4 different exercises, heavy and lightweight, and I'm trying to like sweat and keep my heart rate up extremely high, and I'll work up for like an hour like that. I'll do Tabatas in between some muscle groups. So I'll do like 12 sets of burpees, and then I'll go back to lifting. So you're like really depleting your system, and then you're like that's replicating what you're doing in the ring. You're kicking out at like 10 minutes into a match, you're exhausted, but then you got to get back up and you got to keep performing. So I'm in there also listening to like Michael Jordan speeches where I'm like, I'm trying to be a GOAT. So I'm never going to stop working my ass off because I have goals that I want to achieve. And like that's keeping me motivated to really push myself every single time I go to the gym.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's so intense. Like after the first birthday, I'm like,
nah, man. Like, wait. So you mentioned intermittent fasting. So to some people may not know, they're looking like, oh, you do intermittent fasting and you're working out. How are you able to do all these workouts while you're on your fast? What advice you may have people who may during the time of Ramadan who may just do intermittent fasting themselves?
Yeah, I'm just saying what works for me. I'm not a dietitian.
Yeah, of course, dog.
There's definitely times where you're like very exhausted when you're fasted and you're working out, and I've heard like, of course, that's not the best thing to do for some people, but that's what works for me because then I'm like, all right, if I work out extremely hard fasted, I can go get donuts after this because I burnt like 1,000 calories today, and I need to spike my insulin back up and like refuel myself as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. Like if you're gonna do like a heavier leg day, I'll break my fast early or I'll eat before I go to the gym because I know I'm gonna try to squat, like do 10 sets of 10 and really deplete my system, and I'm gonna have no energy to do that if I go fasted. So I need to like at least have some type of protein shake or carbs. But that's all of me. I've been working out since I was 12 years old. That's all of like constant educating myself. My workouts have changed. I'm working out for functionality. My goals have changed, but that's just like me constantly educating myself what works best for my body because 10 years ago I wasn't doing this.
To go off the fasting, because I'm doing Ramadan right now, so I'm fasting and working out. One of the things that they do say is that your HGH levels do rise when you're fasted.
Okay.
What is HGH?
Human growth hormones. That's our natural human growth hormones that we have in our body. So lifting is not a bad idea, like you just said. I'm a personal trainer, so that's why I study this shit. So, so I'm always curious. I'm the one on the show that's always curious about how every wrestler works out and like how they diet and everything, because it is a hard life to stay in shape because you guys are traveling so much and trying to find a gym to go to and everything of that nature.
That's
so
true.
Yeah, fasting is good. It has, like you said, everybody's different, but I always want to know how you do what you did, and it sounds like you know what the fuck you're doing. So
you said the one thing was intermittent fast, like that's what perked my ear. You said intermittent fast. I said a lot of people don't know about the power of intermittent fasting, how it's just spiritually when you on it, like how much the fog is disappeared. You're able to just maneuver to talk on. Ooh, people don't understand the power of intermittent fasting, dogs. Like the fact that you mentioned that, son, dope, dogs, dope.
I remember when I started it, I went to work that day and like I was so clear, I was so focused on my job at that time. I'm like, that's crazy. Just by not eating for 16 hours, I'm just focused. I'm tapped into the work. Like I said, all that mental fog gone. Sleep better. I feel better. Like there's so many health benefits that it's not, for me, it's not that hard to just not eat for 16 hours. If you stop eating at 7 p.m. one night, you literally have to just go until 11 a.m. the next day. Not hard.
It actually like because I do it for a month. Like I have to do it like because for instance, like sun goes down for the most part at like 7:40, 7:30 over here, and then it'll be up by like 6 a.m. So I got that window to do, and I can't eat a million meals. So like, during that time, I still got to sleep and do work. So the time that I'm not eating, my energy level do spike because, like you said, like the sugar levels going up and down. But when I'm lifting, I think I pulled 455 the other day on a deadlift, and I was benching like 315 fasted. So yeah, it has its benefits. Conditioning work is a little different for me right now, but because I'm not trying to kill myself too much because I want to eat. but yeah, it's a different type of thing. But we're getting off subject. We're talking about intermittent fasting. We're not even talking about your wrestling career right now. But man, thank you for coming on though.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Kahn, what's next for you? Like what's
Prince
one
Kahn,
goal
you
that you
mean?
have?
Prince Kahn.
The tribal chief. My bad. What is one goal that you have this year for yourself, for both in the ring and outside of the ring?
In the ring, I definitely want another championship with this ROH AEW thing. It's either facing FTR for the tag belts with my partner Toa or who was it, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Like I'm trying to win championships at that point. I'm trying to like start having accolades so I can have these belts mounted on my wall. Personally, I'm not sure. I know I'm trying to get into some acting classes. Like I want to stretch myself in that capacity. I don't really care to do movies and whatnot, but I just want to like push myself to be a better character because it's all kind of revolves around wrestling. That's probably it though. Just keep pushing my brand. Like I got to partner with this company called Ladder that was founded by LeBron James and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I'm one of their athletes that's using to showcase the products that they created. That all came from being AEW Dark. So I'm just trying to maximize my revenue streams in different ways. That's definitely
fire.
Can you talk a little bit about the branding part that you're doing right now? Because I saw that and I was like, I want a water bottle, by the way. The water bottle type fire. But how are you doing things and like how important is it for wrestlers to brand themselves?
I think it's extremely important. I think that's the business. Business has kind of turned into this, and you see it kind of with like NFL players now too. Everyone's their own personal brand. So a good friend of mine made this logo for me, the Kahn logo. So I made shirts with that. I'm just trying to get a new like marketing thing. I work in marketing, so I know that it comes to creating a logo, having like a particular typeface, and like having materials that, you know, for us, it's to get fans to interact with you, to buy stuff. That's why I have like same logos on my trunks, same logo on my boots, T-shirts, so that when they see this image and see this logo, they think of me. And that's how you maximize your revenue stream. So I'm just trying to do that as much as I can, come up with new ideas like every quarter, which is like every 3 months. And then again, like partnering with these companies is just going to help my brand grow. So it's not my real name. It's like Kahn is this brand. And like going to school for that, I learned how to like market myself in a very good way. So now hopefully this logo is going to be everywhere.
It will be. It absolutely will be. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Kahn.
much. Do you guys
sorry.
have any other questions? The tribal chief. What did I tell you?
Tribal Chief Kahn. I'm
Come
sorry.
on now. Kahn, let the viewers and listeners know where to find you on social media, and if you have any upcoming indie shows as well.
I'm at _Kahn on Instagram, Kahn on Twitter. Tonight I'm in Kansas City. In 2 weeks I'm going to be in Dallas, Texas. Then I think I'm going to be. I was supposed to do Seattle, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm all over Texas the next month. I should be in Hudson, Wisconsin in a few weeks too. If you just follow me on Instagram, Twitter, you'll see where I'm at. I'm all over the country, just trying to get some experience all over the globe.
Don't let that. You
You
got some piece of advice. That's hilarious.
I mean, the people talking, Prince Kahn, Tribal Chief Kahn. Send us over here, man.
I don't think he has. You know, that's not his responsibility.
Yeah, it's not
You're right.
He focused on his brand, and he wanted to come on and talk. So let him do.
He's
that
like, hey,
thing.
I'll talk. Oh man.
Thank you so much. This was
Facts.
so insightful. It was so much fun to really just get to know you. Because you know, we knew you being a part of STP, so but you being on your own now and you standing on your own and getting to know that man, that has been pretty dope. So we do thank you for taking the time out for talking to us about that. Any way we can always help you, whether it's promoting whatever it is, always let us know. We're always here to help. And let us know the next time you're up here in the tri-state area. We'll definitely try to come out and support you as well. So thank you so much for taking the time again. As always, I'm Janelle from Make Sure I Hear with Star Wilkins and Mrblacc. #Black Expo.
Got the hands in motion. If you go we're rolling, no need to focus. Traveling states and over oceans. You gotta wait till your coast chosen. Try to have lines outside the show like Harry Potter releases at Barnes and Noble.